Imagine sirens piercing the night as disasters strike without mercy, or the chilling silence of power grid failure. At least 6 distinct 100-year flood events, or rarer in the case of Chicago, were documented in the U.S. in 2025, occurring in Texas, West Virginia, Illinois, North Carolina, and New Mexico, along with over 3,600 flash flood warnings issued by the National Weather Service. Disasters have ravaged America, with delayed aid leaving survivors like Delmas Williams, who said the water rose so quickly during Hurricane Helene that in minutes, 4 feet of water stood in his home, prompting the family to be rescued in canoes. We've assembled a guide that details protective actions for 18 types of hazards, from active shooters to winter storms. We're helping you prepare for whatever life throws at you this Disaster Preparedness Month 2025. Through a 3-part series, so let's get started. Hi friends, welcome to the New Normal Big Life podcast. We bring you natural news and stories about nature that we hope will inspire you to get outside and adventure, along with a step-by-step plan to help you practice what you've learned and create your own new normal and live the biggest life you can dream. I'm your host, Antoinette Lee, the Wellness Warrior. So let's dive into today's important topic. Picture the terror of sirens blaring as winds howl and waters surge, or the chilling silence of the power grid failure plunging your world into darkness. Since 2020, America has suffered over $115 billion disasters, a relentless barrage that has displaced millions and claimed countless lives, with supply chain woes and FEMA's ineffective response amplifying the agony by delaying essential aid. In North Carolina's 2024 Hurricane Helene floods, resident Andy Fife waded through chest-high waters to rescue neighbors, recounting, "The river rose so fast it was like a wall of water. We lost everything in hours." Relief from FEMA often lagged, taking days or weeks as priorities focused on densely populated zones, leaving rural families fending for themselves amid contaminated water, social unrest, and disease risks. Similarly, during Hurricane Katrina in 2005, survivor Allison Good endured 6 feet of floodwater in her home, waiting a week for federal help. "We were stranded on rooftops begging for water. The delay cost lives." Rebuilding owned homes averages 2 years for funding approval, ballooning to 6 to 10 years for full recovery, while low-income renters face 4 to 6% rent hikes, evictions, and scarce housing options, pushing many into prolonged homelessness after a disaster. In Colorado's 2020 Cameron Peak fire, Emily Fisher fled flames with her family. "The sky was apocalyptic when we ran 6 miles with nothing but our lives. Trauma lingers years later," she said. These harrowing accounts reveal a stark truth. Government aid isn't guaranteed or immediate, and your insurance company may fail you. During my 11 years in the Army as an air assault qualified expert field medic, infection control and disease prevention officer, and other medical and dental leadership roles, I was tasked with supporting FEMA relief efforts. I also worked on a FEMA project as a technology contractor after my military service. My experience with FEMA taught me to never rely on this agency to save me and my family. Before we cover the next topic in this episode, I want to introduce you to the adventure sports lifestyle with what I call a micro-story about an adventure that I've had. The adventure sports lifestyle and my deep connection to nature is essential to my good health. So here's the story. So many people think they want to live in a camper van, an RV, a tiny home, or a cabin like I do in the woods. But many never consider the skills, the tools, the logistics, and the problem-solving skills you need to survive in very rural places where getting to a shopping center is a journey, there's no police department, and first responders warn that it might take more than an hour to get to you in an emergency. There is one public service when you're very rural: road maintenance, and you could be stranded by snow without power during winter storms. We are routinely. My advice is, if you're thinking about moving rural, you need to start developing the skills you'll need to survive in remote locations before taking the plunge. We thought we were very prepared. We previously lived on the edge of town in a small town in northern Colorado where the dirt road met the paved road. We were super outdoorsy. We camped for weeks at a time. We do high intensity adventure sports like whitewater kayaking. And we know that we are in remote places where survival is left up to us, because in some cases, even a helicopter can't get to you. And still, there was a lot we were not ready for and had to learn on the fly when we moved into our cabin 2 years ago. So I don't want to discourage you from taking the plunge. In fact, I hope this inspires you to cautiously enter living the adventure sports lifestyle full-time like we do, either alone, with a friend, or the people you love most. But do it very carefully and prepare in advance. Now back to the show where we're talking about disaster preparedness. So here are the issues with relying on FEMA. When I was working with FEMA as a Army specialist on my first assignment and in later years as an Army Staff Sergeant, I want to give a shout out to the Staff Sergeant Mafia. You know what I mean. FEMA never had adequate supplies available to support the number of people impacted. Relief support practices rely on having power and access to technology, which are non-existent or in short supply during a disaster. More people need help than there are helpers, and FEMA often gets in the way of volunteer organizations that are more agile and efficient at providing search and rescue and disaster relief, and there's no guarantee that FEMA will provide relief in your area. So, finally, the most disturbing event I witnessed was how FEMA used military support. I thought I would provide rescue and recovery, medical and dental aid. Instead, we essentially had to give away supplies meant for our Army soldiers because we couldn't bear to watch residents suffer with no supplies available locally. We also never provided aid. Instead, we provided security. Essentially, we were tasked with keeping poor people out of wealthier neighborhoods and business districts. This occurred during every storm relief effort that I supported throughout my 11 years of service. And we all learned that Hurricane Katrina survivors and their families who were, air quotes, lucky enough to receive a FEMA trailer to live in after the storm developed rare cancers because the trailers contained off-gassing of toxic chemicals. Knowing this, would you trust your family's safety, security, and health to this system? This is why I encourage you to plan to be self-reliant. Since beginning my journey into short-term and long-term self-reliance in 2018, I've survived 3 wildfires surrounding the Colorado community where we used to live, 3 blizzards that damaged our home and left us in the dark for a week at a time in the Midwest, and survived 2 flood seasons while living in a very rural community with no public services. I'm going to teach you much of what my family and I use to keep ourselves safe during an emergency and while adventuring. The one assignment where FEMA excelled is that it's created a thorough guide detailing alerts and protective actions to act swiftly when seconds count. Building on self-reliance from books like The Amish Ways, The Prepper's Survival Bible, and No Grid Survival Projects, this 3-part series dives into these tactics, blending expert advice with my real-world experience, other people's stories, to urge you to prepare now or risk everything. FEMA's protective actions will cover 18 hazards. So here we go. Alerts will come to you as advisories, for example, which if you get an alert that says advisory, that means it's providing you with early awareness. If you get an alert that says watches, that means there's a possible threat. When you receive a warning, it means a threat of danger is imminent. Ignoring them can be fatal. When we have an advisory, we start preparing certain things that are perishable, like You can only store water that we get from our well and put through a purification system into 5-gallon containers for a period of time before you need to dump it, which we use to water trees around our property and refill your containers. So there are certain actions you'll need to take, and we'll cover this in part 2 of disaster preparedness. Stats show that these 18 occurrences are not rare. They're increasingly common, demanding immediate response and preparedness to survive. So number 1 is active shooter. Likelihood, this is not in order of the possibility that it will happen, just in order of the way that I listed it in my document. In fact, I think I might have done it alphabetically. So active shooter. The likelihood is high in public spaces with more than 50 incidents yearly. The concern is sudden violence causing mass casualties. And what you need to do to protect yourself, or the protective actions, is run away if possible, hide if not possible to run, fight as a last resort. A survivor from the 2022 Buffalo shooting said, "I hid under a counter as shots rang out. Training saved me." There have been many incidents where a trained member of the public stopped an active shooter using their concealed firearm. Hopefully, your state allows ordinary citizens to protect themselves and others. Talk with your friends and family about what to do and practice your reaction so that it'll be second nature to you in an emergency. There's fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Fawn is begging for your life. Don't hurt me, please stop, don't hurt me. Most people nowadays will either fawn, beg for their life, or freeze in an emergency, or there needs to be another category, they'll pull out their phone and start recording it. The fight or flight response is often delayed. In order to prevent yourself from trying to beg someone not to harm you, or to freeze and not take any action, if that doesn't come natural to you, like it does come naturally to me, then you need to train. A person like me, who my natural response is to fight or flight, I don't have to train as much, but I still train on what will I do in an emergency scenario. Number 2 is avalanche. It affects 30 U.S. states. There are more than 1,000 avalanche events every year, and the concern is being buried alive in snow. So the actions you want to take are move sideways to where the avalanche is falling and also protect your head. Use a beacon if you're going to be in areas where avalanches occur so that rescuers can find you quickly. And a Colorado survivor said this, "The snow hit like a truck. I swam to stay afloat." What he means is, as the avalanche was falling on top of him, he was making a swimming action, and that kept him on top of the snow. Smart strategy. It worked for him. I would try that in an emergency. Number 3 is cyber attack. There are 2,200 daily attacks. It's up 84% recently. The concern is infrastructure shutdown. The actions you should take would be, if you have a personal cyber attack on your home computer, you want to disconnect your devices and report the incident to authorities. In 2021, a colonial pipeline victim said gas shortages lasted for weeks. Chaos ensued because that company was under cyber attack. In a future article and podcast, I'll give you some recommendations to protect yourself from a cyber attack. However, keep in mind that cyber attacks on a business or government entity can also affect you. It might take essential services like power and water offline, cause digital payment systems to fail, and give hackers access to your personal information. So keep your password manager locked when you're not using it. Don't click on anything if you're not sure of the source. And remember, hackers are clever at pretending to be a trusted person or entity. For example, using AI, they can even mimic your child's voice asking for help or to send them money fast. Number 4 are earthquakes. 75% of the U.S. is at risk for an earthquake, and 16,000 earthquakes occur annually. The concern is collapsing structures. So the actions you want to take are to drop down, cover your head, and hold on, and avoid doorways. So get like under a table, which in 2024, a California shake survivor said that's exactly what they did. They got under the table and held on to their family members. Number 5 is extreme heat. Extreme heat kills 1,300 people annually, and it's up by 20%. The concern is dehydration and heat stroke. So the actions you want to take are stay indoors, hydrate. You can make some natural electrolytes using lemon in 8 ounces of water with a little, maybe 2 to 3 pinches of sea salt. That's a natural electrolyte that can help keep you hydrated and keep your electrolytes steady. You can also wear cool clothing. If you have electricity at the time, turn on your AC or fan. If you don't have a way to cool down, go to the lake, the river, or a cooling station if your home is too hot. A quick dip in the water is a great way to cool off and escape the heat. In 2021, Pacific Northwest survivors said temperatures hit 116 degrees and elderly neighbors didn't make it. So check on your friends and family. Number 6 is financial emergency. It affects 40% of households post-disaster. The concern is economic ruin, supply chains problems. Your place of work may not be open for a while. So the actions you want to take in advance are to build an emergency fund, review your insurance and make sure you have adequate coverage, keep 1 month of household expenses in cash in a bank or bank lockbox or a safe. Live well below your means to ensure there's money left over each month to invest in your preparedness plans and other emergencies like an auto breakdown. A recession survivor said, "I lost my job overnight, but our savings kept us afloat." Number 7, floods. 99% of counties in America are affected by floods. The concern is drowning, contamination of the water, civil unrest due to looting and violence. And so the actions you want to take are to evacuate to high ground. So turn around, don't drown. North Carolina's Bill Schiller said, "Water destroyed my home. We waited days for help." This is why we have multiple escape routes out of our home and off our property, to include putting on a personal flotation device and PFD. We have PFDs for ourselves and the dog. We keep them in the house, not in the garage. So if there's flood surrounding the home, when you step outside, you're wearing a personal flotation device to help you float. Even if you know how to swim, you're going to be exhausted from the process of getting to safety, and it might make it difficult for you to swim even if you're a good swimmer. So wear your PFD. There's a whole episode on New Normal Big Life that tells you how to choose the right PFD for you. We have a plan to swim out, kayak out with our dogs and supplies, or motorboat away out of the area. You want to coordinate with friends and family to increase your chances of survival. You help me, I'll help you. We have a friend who is a helicopter pilot, for example. We have skills to offer him in return. Don't look to become someone else's burden. Have valuable skills and items to barter with in return for teamwork. Number 8, hurricanes. 51% annual landfall chance. The concern is winds, surges, flooding, road closures, civil unrest, delayed governmental relief, and more. The actions you want to take are to board up your windows, evacuate if ordered, have food, water, and medicines for at least 2 weeks on hand. Hurricane Katrina survivor Joe Bridges said, "Roofs ripped off. We were displaced for years." Number 7, landslides. 25,000 annual threats from landslides in America. The concern is your home being buried. So the actions you want to take are to stay away from slopes, evacuate if cracking's heard, carry a foldable shovel for self-rescue. A California survivor said, "Mud buried cars. We fled just in time." Number 10 is pandemics. There's a 2 to 3% annual risk of a pandemic. The concern here is hysteria, causing civil unrest and panic, overwhelmed health systems, overwhelmed supply chains. So the actions you want to take are to naturally support your immune system. There's a whole episode on New Normal Big Life about supporting your immune system and preparing for a pandemic. You can also use essential oils to kill household germs. There's an episode available for you to tell you which essential oils will kill which types of germs, fungus, etc. I never once got COVID because I used the protocol that I provided to you to keep my immune system boosted. In fact, I have been sick with a cold, flu, strep throat, any of those kinds of things twice since 2014. I have given you good advice in this podcast on boosting your immune system naturally. I hope you'll follow. Number 11 is power outages. Boy, do we see these very often in rural places. In fact, as I'm recording right now, the lights are flickering. My guy Matt is like, oh no, are the lights flickering? And I'm like, yes, they're flickering. I might be able to test out my solar generator whole home system preparedness again if the lights go out. We have very different perspectives. I love testing our preparedness because it makes me feel warm and fuzzy when things work, because it's nothing like testing your equipment, your processes, and your mental and emotional state in an emergency, because when the big one happens, you'll be so chill because you've tested and tested and tested. We used to say in the Army, train how you fight. And we still practice that in our home when it comes to preparedness. So for power outages, they average 5.5 hours per year per household, and the risks are rising. The concern is food spoilage, heat or cold exposure, not having water, power, or other services. Electronic payment systems are down with no way to pay for supplies. Criminals and desperate people will be trying to survive, and they'll be looking for opportunities to take what you have by force. During Helene, one man said that he waited in line for 2 hours for gasoline, and while he was tightening his gas cap, someone tried to steal his gas can that was right next to him. And when he got home, he filled up his generator, went inside, and before bed, when he went outside to top off his generator, there was someone coming through the woods after his generator. So prepare yourself, folks. So the actions you want to take here are use generators, opting for silent, odorless solar generators like the one we have that are stealthy and harder to steal because they're indoors inside with you. Stock adequate food, water, batteries, candles, medication, and first aid materials for a minimum of 2 weeks per person and per animal. A lot of people forget about food and water for their pets. That's going to be very important. We have both flame candles, but we rely more heavily on our electric candles with rechargeable batteries. So keep that in mind for safety, especially if you have children. I would avoid flame candles. And if you have a cat. We'll cover more on this in parts 2 and 3 of this series. Number 12, thunderstorms, lightning, and hail. Oh my. 100,000 storms per year in America, people. So the concern is lightning strikes, electrocution, property damage, extended power outage. The actions you want to take are to stay indoors, away from windows, avoid standing in water. And one survivor said, hail smashed the roof and lightning struck nearby. Tornadoes, number 13. There are 1,000 tornadoes annually here in America. The concern is debris injuries and getting trapped in rubble are a big concern. The actions you want to take is if you have a basement, you want to go to the basement and stay away from windows, or stay away from windows in an interior room or under your stairs. An Oklahoma survivor said, "The house was gone in seconds. We huddled in the bathtub together." Number 14, tsunamis. If you live on the coast, you are at risk for tsunamis at the rate of about 5 per year. So the concern is drowning, of course, and the actions are to move inland or to higher ground. Number 15 is volcanoes. There are 169 active volcanoes in the U.S. The concern is ash and lava. So the actions you want to take are these. We purchase fire retardant blankets and fire evac masks from my affiliate Ready Hour. These supplies offer protection from inhalation and flames for up to 1 hour. This gives you protection while you evacuate. Wildfires, number 16. Millions of acres are burned annually in the U.S. and if you experienced living in the Midwest this summer, you know how difficult it was to breathe because of Canada's wildfires. The concern is smoke and burn. So the actions you want to take is, one, if you're in a wildfire, let me tell you something that happened, I think about 100 years ago in a place called Peshtigo. During the Peshtigo wildfire, the entire town was lost except for the people who live near a body of water. What they were able to do is they spent the entire day and night till the next morning in an active wildfire area with flames above their head. But what they did was they stayed in the water, submerged completely underwater, and only came up briefly just to get a little air. Keep that in mind. So create a defensible space by wetting down your roof, trees, grass, and any brush around your property and evacuate early. Cameron Peak's wildfire survivor named Emily said they left with just the clothes on their backs and they had to run for 6 miles. So here's another thing to remember, my adventure family. You want to be in good physical condition as best as you can. I know we're getting older. I know many of us, like me, have disabilities. I know many of us have chronic health challenges, but be as strong, strength-wise, cardiovascular-wise, mentally, so that you can survive at whatever your ability level. So for example, things that I ensure that I can do every year is make sure that I can do at least 50 push-ups, make sure that I can do at least 1 pull-up, make sure that I can run a mile and still fight or shoot or whatever to defend myself afterwards. Those are pretty good ways to ensure that you have the mental, physical, and cardio ability to survive almost anything. So, Cameron Peak fire. That fire was within miles of my home in Colorado when I lived there. Ash rained down on us for months. Unfortunately, this incident caused me to develop asthma, which I later cured with natural remedies like mullein, but not before breathing problems plagued me for 3 years, and I had to use a lot of medication just to breathe on a daily basis. That's when I purchased fire protection gear from Ready Hour. Since then, I have used natural remedies to restore my lungs and I no longer need medication, but I wish I had some Ready Hour protection before the Cameron Peak fire. Number 17 is winter storms. 70% of the U.S. is affected yearly. The concern is hypothermia, isolation, lack of food, a lack of water, and heat if the power goes out. So you want to insulate yourself while indoors. You can, if you have a tent, bring it inside and set it up. Put everyone in the house, including the pets, in the tent, and your body heat will help to keep you all warm while you're in the tent. The other thing you can do if you don't have a tent is use bedding to create a tent. You want to put on your warmest clothes possible. And I know if you live in a typically warm climate that doesn't get winter storms, remember Texas, Florida, California, you sometimes, on a rare occasion, will get a winter storm, and then we have to listen to dozens of you say, "Oh my goodness, I wasn't prepared for this storm. I don't even have a winter coat or boots or gloves." How many people nearly died or did perish in their cars during a winter storm? I think it was in 2021, because they didn't have any warm clothes in their vehicles, and also they ran out of gas. So what I do in the winter is I have a get home bag in my winter vehicle. So that means we put extra gasoline, food, water, blankets. We have survival blankets. We have a survival tent. And these are all Mylar. They fold up to about the size of a rolled up sock. And you can just leave them in the car. We have flares. We have, there was something else. Oh, also wildfire survival gear. It's all in our get home safe bag, winter get home safe bag. We have a different summer get home safe bag, etc. But these are all things that you can use if you ever get stranded in your vehicle during an emergency. And when I lived in Colorado, I actually had to use that one day. At the time, I was smart. I put my winter get home bag inside a friend's car. When her car broke down and we were stranded and it was minus 12 degrees and we had to wait 3 hours for a tow truck, we were able to survive because I had my get home safe bag. So, number 18 is civil unrest. When there's things going on in your community and it is unsafe to go outside, but you don't have food or water or the medications that you need in your home, guess what's going to happen? You're going to have to brave those dangerous streets and go outside. But if you have at least 14 days of food, water, and medications that you might need stored in your home, you don't need to go out during a civil arrest, a civil emergency. As FEMA experts emphasize, protective actions save lives. Act on alerts immediately. You want to integrate these with additional recommendations from part 2 and 3 of this series for unbreakable resilience. In the words of Voltaire, "The danger which is least expected soonest comes to us." Don't wait to fortify today. So, until next time, friends, I'm your host, Antoinette Lee, the Wellness Warrior. Sorry to be a Debbie Downer today, but I hope that this has prepared you to start getting prepared for natural disasters. Here at the New Normal Big Life podcast, I hope one day to see you on the river, in the backcountry, or in the horse barn living your best life. Struggling with health problems or seeking natural health solutions? Don't miss our latest podcast episodes, exclusive blog posts, and free ebooks only available to those who subscribe to our newsletter at nnbl.blog to unlock this bonus content and start living your best life today. World events are constantly teaching everyone some very painful lessons. Without warning, everything we take for granted can suddenly fail. And if you're not prepared in advance, you really don't have a chance. The fact is, the modern world runs on a just-in-time supply schedule. Even the biggest grocery stores can carry only enough food for a few days' worth of normal shopping. So when disaster strikes and chaos ensues at your local stores, the odds are simply against you. If you don't have emergency food and gear stockpiled in advance, you will probably suffer. My partner, Ready Hour, is here to help you ahead of time. Ready Hour has a long history of providing calorie-rich, reliable, and delicious nourishment for life's unexpected situations, and critical emergency gear too. They're part of a family of companies that have served millions of people like you for decades. My family and I use Ready Hour products for camping, mountaineering, and disaster preparedness for 5 years now. They're not just reliable, they're also your affordable option too. Long-term survival foods shouldn't break the bank. That's why they have great sales and payment options for you. It's your bridge to safety and survival when things just aren't normal anymore. So make your next decision your smartest decision. Be ready for tomorrow, today. Trust Ready Hour. Ready to shop? Use my affiliate link in the show description.